It is officially time. We are back with another episode of Subversive Beauty, and I am here with one of my favorite makeup artists, my sister. Like, we've worked on a couple shoots together, and I have to say, a blessing to work with every single time. I am blessed with Laurel Charleston. Hello, my queen. How are you doing today? And can you describe this look for me?
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing so well. Um, this is just, kind of my go-to quick, pretty transsexual mug. Just a soft eye, medium to full coverage base.
Yep,
And
camera base.
the new Freck lip liner in shade number 6 with Pat McGrath gloss. Can never go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, those Freck liners I'm really excited to try, and Pat McGrath has one of the cutest gloss formulas. And I know you were using it on on Richie. I think you were using Blitz Gold, maybe. I was watching over Laurel last time we worked together, and I peeked into the makeup drawer a little bit.
Yes. I
And
actually think it was Blitz Gold, actually. I think so, yeah.
yeah, because it was like that really like pearlized, pretty gold. And that's actually where we met. Laurel and I worked last episode, we had Hannah on here, and she's just been a great friend of mine for a hot minute now. And the first photo shoot I actually assisted Hannah recording back behind the scenes was with Laurel and another trans god, Richie Shazam. Like, it was New York City royalty in the house that day, and it was such a fun shoot. I have to post the images on my Patreon for it. I mean, it's on where was it? It was not another. What was the magazine?
Numero.
Netherlands, I think.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Numero
Numero.
Netherlands.
It was Numero, and that shoot was hot. Like, and
It was hot. Richie is
Loewe.
just so gorgeous, such a superstar model. John Novotny on hair. It was a very superstar team. It was great. It was a really great time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you ended up doing like 3 looks, I think.
Yeah, we ended up doing about 3. 3 different looks that kind of progressed throughout, that we kind of built up throughout, just because she needed to go through a lot of physical clothes. I think we did like 8 clothing looks too, so it was a lot.
Yeah,
It was a long day.
that was like an intense shoot day, but it went quickly. And one thing I will say, Laurel works so quickly and so steadily, which is like, I mean, obviously you're known for your liner looks, but you work quickly, girl, and those lines were sharp. And I mean, I can barely do it on myself, just sitting there with all the time in the world. So that's what I was mostly fascinated about, because I love watching makeup artists work, and especially just like your hand. Like, I remember I was basically trying to make an excuse to watch you closer. So I was like holding the little palette. I was like, girl, put the liner brush in here. And it was sickening to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand when you see an editorial, all of those looks were shot in one day. So you have to be so quick, and you might think, oh, that's plenty of time for makeup. It's not, because you have styling, you have hair, you have lighting tests. Like, there's just so much that goes into it. At the end of the day, if you want to get another look in, you have like 20 minutes. So there just comes a time where like you just have to trust your gut, you have to trust your muscle memory, and you just have to throw it down the line. You don't even have to think about it. You just have to throw it down the line. But yeah, that was one of those moments for sure.
I asked you before, like, I think we were doing the first look, and I was like, oh, do you know, like, what else we're going to do? And you were pretty much like, nope, I'll see with the clothing or whatever. You had a general idea, because I know you work a lot with kind of self-references. Like, you pulled up some of I think it was a liner look you did on yourself, just for, like, a general shape that you wanted to do for, I think, the second look. And then we worked together on the Pip & Co. Lorena show. And there on the board, it was all your makeup tests. But I think those were specifically curated for the show, if I'm right.
Yes. So one thing, for me, about coming up with makeup ideas, so many people will put together mood boards of other people's work, and then they just replicate that in like a different shade or something because it's like, you need to show us what you're going to do. Show us that, or people do face charts. But I don't think doing face charts don't necessarily adapt to actual bodies,
3D faces
perfectly, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm like, oh, I can just mock it up on my face, know exactly what I'm gonna do, have it be the exact custom idea that I'm thinking of. So it's like not like room for interpretation. It's not someone else's idea, and I can claim a little bit more ownership over it. So I just like to do it that way, because if I'm thinking about something very specific and unique and that's kind of tailored to the brief, I can just illustrate that perfectly. And yeah, also to the earlier point, working on editorials, like I love being so flexible and not saying I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna do these 3 looks, because the styling is gonna change, and then maybe the
Mm-hmm.
hair artist brings an idea in. So being open and flexible and having kind of a mental library of ideas to pull from is like so important and needed in this line of work, so that you're not just putting yourself in a box and then you freak out when you have to break out of it.
Yeah, and especially like I worked on another shoot later on with Hannah, and makeup and hair can make or break the structure of a editorial, especially when you have a hard out time where like I think we had to be out of there by 6 or something because we were working at a big office studio that wasn't like under Hannah, because it was for a certain magazine that commissioned it. And I remember like hair and makeup kind of just kept going and going and going. And we're kind of sitting there. We don't want to disrupt hair and makeup because also it sucks when you have somebody like watching over you. But I've been following you for maybe I think it's been like maybe 4 years now, honestly. Like I was there from the kind of the original looks, and I remember I was one of your first followers when you transitioned to TikTok. And I remember you would just kind of like paint your face on there, and it wasn't, I don't think you really talked very much, or you would just kind of go through it. And then now you're kind of at this like superstar, I don't want to say moment because it's going to last, like we know this, but you're kind of at like a really big peak right now. So I'm just curious, like, what was your first memory with makeup? Like, what kind of brought this whole lifestyle to you?
Totally. So first of all, very kind words. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you've been on this journey with me, and it's been a crazy journey.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning, I mean, I first got started, the first time I ever touched makeup, I was a sophomore in college, and my
Oh, so late
friend,
bloomer.
yes, late bloomer down, did not touch makeup in high school,
Mm-hmm.
was still identifying as a gay boy until I moved to college, had a freshman year where I was like, gay, I can explore my sexuality. Sophomore year was like, wait, what? Gender? What's that? So then my friend pulled me into her dorm room at Penn State North Halls, and she put like this crazy haphazard like smoky eye on me, and I felt cunt. And I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy, and I didn't think anything of it. And then my friends were like, oh, you should do drag. There's this once a year drag show. It's all amateurs. You should do it. You should do it. And I did it like the year after or something, and became a part of my life. And then I met other friends, and we made a queer community, and then we made a drag community. And there really wasn't a drag economy at Penn State, but then like
Mm-hmm.
we went to bars and we would petition, like no, not petition, but we would ask them to perform there, and then we would make performance pieces. We created a whole drag economy that's still going at Penn State, which was really cool. But that's how I got started in makeup. And when I was starting drag, all my friends wanted to be womanly and feminine, and like I wanted to put shapes on my face. You know, like I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to kind of reject all of that. Like I wasn't ready to go into all that gender. I really wanted to surround myself with I don't know. I feel like there was just so much for me to express internally that I needed to, that I still didn't even I still could not even unpack then.
Yeah.
And I was able to express myself through makeup um so emotionally and so viscerally, in a way that I still wasn't allowed to in my studies in college. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I got started back in like 2017.
Okay, so your first kind of foray was more I don't want to say a character, but it wasn't like your day to day, you weren't really painting like even just like femme makeup. You were just kind of
Yeah,
like
no.
exploring it just as kind of like a separate identity to yourself where
I wouldn't wear makeup day to day. I mean, there was a point junior year I started doing like a brow moment, which is like not that good. But don't want
okay.
to go by that. That like 2016 makeup.
Yeah.
But I would go to Rite Aid because I had no money and I was so poor, and my grew up in a broke family, had no money, only went to college because I got a full ride, and I literally like they would give. I made like $1,000 over each semester, so that's it was. So I would take the little money that I would have, and I would go to a Rite Aid, and I would get the NYX liquid suede lipstick. They had like a bright blue one and an orange one and even maybe a green
Mm-hmm.
one. And I would use those and I would paint on my face with them. So that's how I would start. I would do color blocking and kind of weird, intense makeups that felt totally separate and away from gender, but was still just a way for me to let out and just express and be colorful.
Because I think we kind of have like opposites in a sense. I think I remember I was pickpocketing makeup when I was, I think, in middle school with my best friend, and
Love.
I remember I would just sit and I I think that was in the major like YouTube era of like warm smoky eyes, and I got one of those Huda like what is it? Not the quad, but like the square palettes that they used to have with the 9 shadows in it. I
Yes.
remember trying to do like a smoky eye, and honestly, I was more so I kind of really I was scared almost. Like I loved it and I coveted it, like having the makeup so much, but putting it on was a whole nother story. I maybe had like 2 brushes. So then I kind of paused for a second and then kind of came back and I bought that Alexis Stone palette she did with Makeup Revolution, like a full rainbow palette. And then that I kind of just played there. And then I don't think I ever really started doing like femme kind of makeup till maybe now. Like every once in a while, I'll pull out like my really like I don't know like I don't know like hyper femme.
A little soft cunt moment,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
like
pussy, a little
contouring. Like I'll move the blush from like the cheeks and I'll put them up here because sometimes
right,
I'm like, when I go out, I'm like, if I'm gonna go to like Paul's Dolls, I want to look like
right.
snatched. But if I'm gonna go to like Basement, which not anymore, they took my ID. Uh,
R.I.P.
yeah, yeah. So in a couple of years we'll get back in there, but I'll do something a little bit different there. And then like in the everyday, like I'm still kind of contemplating if I'm gonna go out in this to school because girl, something's been in the air with this new spring weather. The people on the subway have been going nuts. So I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me
Girl, fair. We got to
to deal
protect
with
our
that.
energy and protect our safety too. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
because it's really funny. Because were you, when you were going out in college, were you just kind of like in around in a college town and going out at night?
Well, I wouldn't really go out in those looks. I started going out in New York City, so there was a bus that
Oh,
would go
okay.
From Penn State University to New York City, mega bus. It
Oh,
was
ho,
$40,
ho.
and me and my friend we would go for a weekend every month, starting like my junior year and senior year, pending my drag sister, and we would go to a crazy club kid party with a bunch of club kids, and the goal would be to look as crazy as possible. So I
Yes.
would do my craziest full body avant-garde moments. I taught myself how to sew, so I'd make these crazy full body suits and patterns that like I would then paint all over my face, and that was like my business card because the goal was to look as wild and as intense and fantastical as possible so that you meet people and people come up to you that are also kind of kooky, and that was my business
Mm-hmm.
card. That's how I met friends that I still have to this day that would just also look crazy, and they'd come up to me and we would hit it off, and now they're designers and they're creatives and they're friends, but yeah, that's how I would go out, and I would go out in New York City like that all the time,
Yeah.
and I was very brave. I was a bitch with nothing to lose. I would just get on the
Yeah.
subway. Like,
Well, and that's funny because also being there's like a kind of dichotomy with it where now I mean I don't have the money to be Ubering everywhere. Especially we live in Brooklyn and Uber from Manhattan to Brooklyn can be like $60. So it's like sometimes there were nights where I did not have the money and I probably should have Ubered home and I found myself at the Bowery
yep.
station in Lower East Side at 3 in the
Bowery is
morning.
Bowery is spooky.
Yup, surrounded by a bunch of people who probably thought I was some type of demon, but you know
Right.
what? I was like, keep the eyes forward, and it's actually funny. You kind of find friends along on the subway too. You're kind of like each other's protectors. Like I'll get on
Right.
the train, and then you'll see like another little like kooky kid in the corner, and you guys like you'll
Yeah.
make eyes, and then you're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. We have somebody against us or like to protect. But even now, like I've been going out the past couple of days, even in broad daylight, people are getting bold. Like, and
I don't know what it is, but it's new. I traveled the world the last year on tour, and like I'm thinking like, oh my god, I wonder which countries are going to be really transphobic. The most
yeah,
transphobic country was the United States of America. And
which
also, I'm
and
white, so that I have to put that out there. Like, me as
yeah,
a white trans woman gives me a lot of privilege in Europe, even in Asia. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
being
still
less
I
of a
would get stared
spectacle.
at and stuff, but nothing like my whiteness still like protected me quite a bit in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But like, still, like, just as a trans person, the most amount of violence I've ever gotten from strangers on the street is America.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I think the same thing where I'm like, ooh, like I'm planning travels to like I want to like LA and then abroad to like London and stuff, and it's scary how you have to plan out what's the line, because I also now in
Right.
my everyday, like makeup is my favorite part of the day. Like I used to always just be like, well, I'm putting it on, I'm gonna go out, whatever. But lately, I've been kind of having second thoughts. I'm like, like, am I really in the mood today to be
Yep.
stared at, to be yelled at? Like, even like a week ago, I had like this argument with this lady on the train, not even having anything to do with the makeup or whatever. And then out of nowhere, she just calls me like F word, and I'm like, oh, I was like, I was like, oh, we're going there. So I was like, you know what, guys, it was great to see you. And then we got out after, and I was like, damn, like people are still crazy like this.
Crazy. Yep. Yep.
And so I I think now I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm going back, but I just realized like I'd rather just be in my room, like, and hang out with like my friends and
Bitch, that's the
places I'm
best. I love
comfortable.
doing makeup in my room for 6 hours, something crazy, photographing it and taking that off and going to sleep. Like, I
Yeah.
love it. Like,
And
and then I'll do like a crazy intense look for 6 hours, and people will be like, "Oh my god, like, how do you take it off? Like, you've worked on it so hard. Like, how do you bring yourself to take it off?" I'm like, "Babe, I honestly, at the end of 6 hours, I can't wait."
no, and it's funny because everyone's always, I feel like people, I mean, there is obviously that expectation if you're doing makeup, you're going somewhere to be seen in it. But I'll just be doing, like, I'll be on like a TikTok live or something at 10 o'clock, and people are like, oh my God, are you getting ready to go? And I'm like, no, I'm going straight to the shower. I'm like,
No, this is
I'm
my
ready to take
shower
this off.
makeup. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really, I used to always, I would have to do shower makeup because, like, when I was back home, like, my parents were not in with the makeup. Like, thankfully it's evolved now to they can, like, stuff like this. My mom's like, Nico, what the hell are you doing? But it's more
Right.
of like a loving way, you know, where she's like, you do you, you've kind of earned your flowers now, like, just
That's cute.
just do that. And that's all honestly been, na- now I can choose whether or not I'm gonna go out in it, but it's that's a scary world out there. But I'm
It is a
excited to
scary
kind of
world.
go travel more and see what the different looks are like, because I know I want to try and get to London this summer and kind of feel out the train there, because I get a lot of inspiration from British punk scene, like the 80s, 90s, like that whole Vivienne Westwood, like Sex Pistols era.
Totally.
That is like bread and butter. And that, I think you've obviously been traveling a lot, but oh my God, what was I gonna say? Going back to the hometown thing, where did you kind of transition? Because obviously you just did Melanie's tour,
Hmm.
but now you're kind of known, I feel like, a lot for doing your makeup on other people and kind of adapting your ideas. Where was like the switch? Because I still am largely, I like to do makeup on myself. I'll do it for jobs and stuff, and there are certain people who I'd love to do makeup on, but largely I just like doing it myself. When did you kind of transition a little bit more into doing other people's makeup?
Yeah. So I, the first person that like paid me money to do makeup on someone else, I think was like Patrick Church, who's a queer designer. I think
Yeah.
they're still based in Miami right now, but they were based in Brooklyn for the longest time, and that's where I met them. Him and his husband Adriel, beautiful, sweet couple, so nice. Like I remember, like I was broke as shit, starving, couldn't pay rent, and like Patrick would be like, "Hey, if you ever want to do anything, a creative project, raid my closet, like whatever you want, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
need." And he had like crazy clothes. He still has. He's a great, amazing fabulous wardrobe.
Yeah.
But it was like for an underwear campaign for him, and I painted him in like 6 crazy full face paints in one day. Still looking back at that, I'm like, that was wild. Like, I really threw the paint down. But that, and then he had me do detox for one of his other campaigns. So, and it
Oh,
was one of my first
love.
times painting someone. She was like one of my first people that I've painted, and it was detoxing. Me being a double Virgo and
And what
someone
did you
who
do on?
I did this like beautiful neon orange lip and like a really intense blue eye. It was honestly really gorgeous, and it like matched
Mm-hmm.
because he does like these contrasting colors on the clothing
Yeah.
too. It was for like this really cool cone titty moment, I think is what she was wearing. But she was one of the first people I painted, and I, practiced the hell out of it, planned everything, and just I like kind of freak out in terms of preparation a lot. Like I have to make sure I'm 1000% fully prepared for everything. So, and it went well, and that was kind of the beginning of it. And then when I
And
realized
I
I
feel
could
like
do
being
more of it,
co-
it was.
oh, sorry.
Oh no
Being
no
like
no,
one
go
of
for it, go
the
for it. No
more
no, go for it.
creative makeup artists, you have to think a lot more in advance of the potential of changing something of all the colors you might need. Because if you're doing some like a normal celebrity client or you're doing bridal or something like that, you kind of know like the staples you can always go back to. But when you need to
Babe,
do full body
yes.
paints,
Yes, you hit
it's
the nail on the head. Like when you do regular glam, you just bring your glam kit, and it's just like a little bag. It's like your little square kit. You have all the glam shades, your neutrals, your shimmers, everything. For creative makeup, I bring my suitcase. I have my glitters, I have my water activates, I have my grease paints, I have this, I have that, and there's
mm-hmm.
always something that I didn't bring because it's like they're like, "What could you do this crazy thing?" And I'm like, I could, but I left that one thing at home. So now I just bring so much because so much is expected of you also as a creative makeup artist, to do things and to be more flexible than I think you have to be in the job of just doing standard glam and standard beauty. Because it's like if you're being flexible with standard beauty, you're talking about going from a mauve to a skin nude tone, you know what I mean? But like, you really have to be very open and flexible to do this type of
Yeah.
creative makeup in a setting of a studio shoot for an editorial or a campaign. And I always love being inspired by the styling, which helps me be flexible. Because if I can be inspired by the styling that I see that day, then like I see my job is to be like the cohesion, the glue kind of like what's the brief,
Mm-hmm.
what's the clothes that she's gonna wear, and what's the hair. Because the hair sometimes comes pre-prepped too, because they have to prepare certain things.
Yeah.
Makeup, you can be flexible, and I think if you lean into that as a makeup artist, you can really help a project become extremely cohesive.
Especially if you're doing something kind of period or you're trying to tell a story, you have to kind of understand specifically what vision they're going for.
Right.
And it's a lot more complicated, especially for the more out there looks, because you need a different type of line can change how the story is interpreted. And it's kind of difficult because for a stylist who doesn't really know much about makeup, for them to articulate what they want, they kind of have to do it more abstractly. So it's kind of the makeup and hair to kind of bring that to life because we all wear clothes, so it kind of we do have some association with how we wear the clothes. We understand where it's coming from. The photographer usually, if they're as amazing as Hannah, they'll know about makeup. They'll kind of understand what we're trying to go for, but it gets difficult to kind of fully convey that story we're going for. And because you do a lot of full body paints, where do the stories for those kind of come in when you're going to do like something from head to toe?
Great question. I'm actually preparing to do a crazy body paint tomorrow, which will be
Okay.
so cool. I'm so excited. It's for a trans icon supermodel, and it's probably one of my most intense body paints yet. And I'm so excited. So this, oh God, I really can't speak about it. But it's in this specific body paint is loosely inspired by a I can't even say. Don't even want to say. I can't. But it's
Okay.
really
Then
cool,
go.
and
Yeah.
I
Well,
so
have
my
you?
body.
What are some of the other ones you've done, like
Yes.
full
Okay. So
body?
the other body paints that I've done have been inspired mostly from this like Poison Dart Frog series. I'm like so
Yes.
obsessed with the vibrancy of the color. Poison dart frogs possess just naturally and in nature. Also love like texturally, like if you see like blue poison dart frogs and you zoom in on their legs, like the really bright blue fades so beautifully into this deep indigo, and then you have the black freckles, and like it was just so hot. Like I thought it was so beautiful. Like I love pulling inspiration from nature, so that was the inspiration for that shoot. And then I did another version of it in like a red, yellow, orange moment, which was really really beautiful. And this next one's also going to be inspired by an animal where the brief was it needs to be taken. We need to take inspiration from the certain animal. So I get it, and then I put it in Photoshop, and I take all the colors in the photo of the animal, and I put it out, and I see the colors from the animal, like
Oh.
actually. And then I go and I start with the colors, and then I look at the textures, and I think, okay, how can I adapt texturally that layout from that animal and put it onto a feminine body and make it hot, kind of sexy, high fashion, and not cartoony. Like I want it to actually emphasize her and not take away from who she is. Like, I don't want it to look like she's covered in paint. I want it to look like she's
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful goddess.
I think that's a really interesting way of putting it because there's so many different types of how you wear the makeup or how you kind of interpret things. Because where I kind of get troubled sometimes is I feel like a lot of people will see something that inspires them and then just kind of like paint it directly on them, where they kind of ruin the whole fun of it, where you can dissect the certain things that are interesting about it and what excite you. And that Photoshop like trick I'm definitely going to be using in the future. I feel like that's a really interesting way to really dissect an image and understand all the colors
Right, because I
because
need the exact shades too. Like I want
yeah,
like the tint of that weird purpley blue thing. You know what I mean? Like I just don't want to be like, okay, it's orange, yes, and purple. I want it to be like, this is it. Blow up the color. Look at it. What's the Pantone? Okay, I'm
yeah.
gonna copy that. I'm gonna prep that the day before, stuff like that. So that's actually what I was just doing before this. I have the paint
Did
all
you
over
have to
me to
mix
like
them
build
up
uniform makeup.
yourself, the colors?
Yes, I mix everything custom.
What do you usually use? Like a grease paint?
No gatekeeping here, baby. So when I do body paints, two things, two different types of body paints. There's one that's meant to be worn and last throughout the day, through a video shoot, through a live performance. That's alcohol-based paint. When I did
Yep.
Doja Cat's dancers, backup dancers for the VMAs that were covered in blood, the team was led by iconic makeup artist Melina Stearns. Hey, Melina, love you, queen. Um, that was all alcohol paint because it had to last through a performance, and then dissolving it is a bitch. It takes a long time. You have to be patient. You have to dissolve it. So for editorial, you got to do it quick. It's for a photo, and then we're done. So I do water activated paint. So it's
Okay.
all water based paints that I mix beforehand. I have a little system that I've kind of like come up with over the years to dissolve them, and then yeah. So yeah, tomorrow's gonna be really fun. We're gonna do a water activated paint. And I did body paint on one model. It's kind of a funny story. I did body paint. I did an editorial on this one model where I did a body paint a while ago, and she like didn't tell any of us that she had to get on. I think she had to like go somewhere, like maybe it was a meeting, or maybe she had to like get on a plane immediately
Oh.
after. But like she was fully painted in makeup at 5 p.m. and I was like, here's the makeup body wash. All you have to do is go in the shower, rub it on, and it'll just melt off. And she's like, no, I have to go to the airport now. You have to take this off me. We were like,
How did
we're
you
like,
get it
what?
off?
But like because we communicate beforehand what it's gonna be and how it, and like you have to do, and I didn't communicate that part, I guess, specifically, that like I just thought it was assumed like the body paint's happening at the end of the shoot, so you're gonna have to like, so now I know to communicate everything. But so we had to stand her in like one of those giant slop sinks in like a loft studio in
Oh my
Williamsburg,
gosh.
and have to like sponge bathe it off of her. But because it was water activated paint, we were able to get it off quickly, and she was able to make her stuff,
Oh
and it was
my
great.
gosh. That is
Because
so scary because I always forget, like, when the shoots I've done, that some people just, like, don't want to go out in it. Like, I understand she was going on a plane, but, like, I remember thankfully, this was, I think, one of the first shops I did, so I didn't think about the removal process that you have to kind of prepare for. I was like, okay, they'll go home and wash it off. And then I remember not everybody has makeup remover, they have like the right things to dissolve it. So I'm like sitting there with my little micellar water and just thankfully it was a light glam, so we just like rubbed it off. but
Right. And
to
that's a
do a
lesson
full
I've learned
body.
over the last couple of years to be the most professional and prepared artist that I can be is that like the removal is just as important as the application, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's so respectful to remove the makeup too. Cuz it's like if it's so respectful cuz there have been times where I'm like in a rush and I leave and then I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even offer to remove that makeup for that person." I'm like, "That was shitty of me."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think especially when you're doing intense makeup like me, like I can't expect people to want to always go out in like the crazy stuff that I do. So yeah.
And so, I mean, you already brought up Doja a little bit, so I think it's natural that we move to one of the most exciting parts. I have to
Hmm.
say, what was that call like for the, I think, was it last year, maybe 2 years ago? Time flies, that original Paris Fashion Week, that week where you were just like slaying every body paint, every look. Like, how were you kind of prepped for the styling, if you can talk about that? Because all the looks kind of matched what she was wearing.
Hmm.
And just like, what was that experience like?
Yes. Crazy. It was so fun, so beautiful, so amazing. I There was a day. It was 2022 before that fall fashion
Mm-hmm.
week, before September. I think maybe it was like even late August or something. Or no, but there was a day even before that, like a couple months before that, where Doja Cat unfollowed everybody on Instagram. She just felt really uninspired, right? Like she felt like
Mm-hmm.
she was at a point where and this is what she said, that she was at a point where she was just following too many people and like she didn't feel inspired and she was looking at feeds, not feeling inspired. So
Mm-hmm.
that was also really inspiring to hear, like that
Yeah.
she wanted to be proactive about what she was feeding herself in terms of internet content. So she unfollowed everybody, even Nicki Minaj, and then she followed, I think, like 80 accounts, like architecture designers that really inspired her. Makeup artists, she followed a makeup artist. I think that she followed May Pang
Love
at that
her.
same exact time. And then I think Nezra looks as well, who's also
Yep.
Nezra is like an amazing, incredible,
Icon.
credible icon of a makeup artist. So like I was like, oh, these are my friends. She's following me and like these Judies. I'm like, oh my god, I love these people. That's so cool. So then I just DM'd her. She had
Yep.
followed me that day, so I just DM'd her like a month after it, and I was like, hey girl, like if you ever need crazy makeup, I would love to paint you down. And she didn't see it, so I deleted the message because back then you could delete messages if no one
Yeah.
opened it. And then I sent another one like a month later. It's like I was like, just be super casual, just be like super, casual like you normally would. I was like, hey, like once again, like would love to paint you. Like if you ever want to look out of this fucking world, you hit me up and I will turn you out. And her first message was her personal phone number, and she said,
Word.
call me. You paint me. I'm down. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. And I was literally in Brooklyn. I was getting my cheese sliced from my deli,
Bye.
thin, over the counter,
Bye.
my American cheese.
Yep.
And then I got that text, and I was like, it's like,
Those are the
hold the
best
cheese.
moments.
Yeah,
Those
I
are
was
the
like,
best moments.
hold the
You're
cheese.
like,
I gotta
Doja
go.
Cat just gave me her number. Like,
Yeah,
bye.
I gotta go. So then I just called her up, and she immediately was like shooting out ideas, and I was giving her ideas. It's like I would die to do this on you. Like I would die to do this on you because this was after she just shaved her head bald too. So I was like, I want to utilize
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
whole head as a canvas. So that's when one of the first jobs we did was I painted her for Vogue World, which was like that white
Oh, was that the one in New York, right?
organic. Yeah, that was in New York.
Okay.
And we did a little thing of Fashion Weeks here, and then got the call that we wanted to continue the journey in Paris Fashion Week for like 10 days, and that was a beautiful. Every day was a beautiful collaboration between Doja, myself, and Brett Allen Nelson, her stylist, who's also sweetie and a great creative and stylist. And he would pull together the craziest, coolest styling. And it was so easy to get inspired by that. Like I've been
Mm-hmm.
trying to make things work in Brooklyn, rubbing two pennies together, like just pulling stuff out of my butt for the last 5 years. And now I'm in a room with the best couture styling designer pieces in the world. It was
Yeah.
so easy to be inspired. And then I would pull things visually, a texture, a pattern. For Tom Brown, we did a natural mug, but I just did like the iconic Tom Brown print going through her lip and down her chin, like stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it was just so integral to marry the makeup into the styling, and it was fun. It was so fun.
And I feel like you don't always have to be over the top. And that was like the best example because it was so like it was just a little touch of something. But I mean that was one I feel like it was just an amazing little detail because Tom Brown actually, their major runways that they do with Izamaya, those are crazy, like out of this world. But for like the day-to-day customer of Tom Brown, I feel like that little stripe is just such a cool little touch, and especially dragging it out and having it because did it go down her neck too?
No, it was just to the chin, and it was
To the
so funny because I'm doing it, and every look that you saw me do on her, with the exception of like one or two, I only had like 45 minutes to do. Um, which is crazy. So with like because it's just like there's so much going on, you know. So
yeah.
I'm doing the lip thing, and then there's just like a huge camera like right here, and my hands like the camera's here, my hands like right here. I'm like, all right, here we go. Just like you better
Well,
not.
and especially to do it, people like I remember I tried to do a kind of like a cross look almost where I painted across here and down here.
Mm-hmm.
It is so hard
Mm-hmm.
because you have, especially with the lips, like the lips dip here, they come out, and then they go back in. To get a straight line that appears straight, it is not a straight line. It's
It
like
is
you kind of
really,
move it
yeah.
in places. It is
So that's the thing. So
difficult.
that is like my experience. I have a very bony face, which is great for my work because I learned to counteract the curves. If it curves this way, you have to put the line the opposite direction a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. So you look visually because even when I did the first line down her lip, like it it didn't look like a perfect rectangle. Like the beginning line is like curved and the end of the line has a little curve on it. So I had to take a microscopic tiny brush and punch the corners out at the end of each one so it looked like a actual like kind of ribbon line, like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But yeah, it's you just it takes like a lot of kind of just like that practice. Like even like doing a straight line across the face a certain way, like you have to anchor yourself and not look in a tiny mirror. You have to
Mm-hmm.
look directly into a large mirror for symmetry and not turn your head. You have to look straight on and you have to practice like that because that's you're painting for that one perspective, right? You want it to
Mm-hmm.
look two-dimensional from one perspective, so you have to look from that perspective while you paint it. If you have a mirror here, your symmetry is only going to look symmetrical if someone's here looking up at you from this angle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you have to really train yourself to like even on a client like I look so crazy. Sometimes I squat in
Oh
front of
yeah,
them and I
yeah, yeah.
stand back and I'm like and they'll be like
Side to side.
yes, and then like first time client with me, they'll be like, damn, she's really just staring at me. But I'm like I'm analyzing for symmetry and just like you know what I mean? But it's just so
Mm-hmm.
important that you have a fixed perspective when you do something that's supposed to look flat or straight or two
Yeah,
dimensional.
because I remember, and I think that's just one of those things you kind of learn over time, and it's not really helped by social media. And that was kind of my goal with this podcast is to get like those real life how tos, those little secrets, because I know exactly if you were to present this to somebody on social media, the answer would be take a piece of tape and wrap it around your head and
Oh
then put it on the other
my
side.
god!
Like that whole trend, and I'm like, that doesn't make any
I
sense.
I can't with that. Listen, yes, stuff like that works, but to have the technique to take something in your hand and to do it and it's straight, I just think that's so hot and sickening. And like you, people can have other things, but like technique can be learned, and to have that, I think is like irreplaceable as an artist.
Yeah. And that's like what separates that makeup. I mean, I don't know exactly how to put this, but like that pro makeup artist, like somebody who makeup is their job, is their passion, is their actual art form, and using it as a tool for kind of content and entertainment. Because there are people who can do a sickening low glam look and look beautiful doing it, but then it takes another type of obsession and passion and actual time. Because I mean, even the look I have on right now, it's kind of one of those art history arguments of like, oh, I could do that. But
But
to
you haven't,
know
so yeah.
And that's my favorite response. And it looks like I just slapped the paint on, but didn't really take that long because by now I've done a couple different one of these. But to know where, especially color theory, what colors are going to blend together, not having it look flat, like kind of moving the colors in the right place, it's complicated. And
It's
it's,
really complicated, actually.
mm-hmm.
Like, and to do makeup that looks like organic and natural,
Yes, that's
and
my
like
favorite thing. Not making
it's
it look like makeup, but a part of you.
right. It's I love that. I live for that. Makes my nipples hard.
Yeah.
Like I die. Because it's that's technique, right? Like you use technique to make something look easy and something look natural. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the coolest thing. Because as makeup artists, there are millions of us in the world. Like we have
Yeah.
the coolest job. Like this is crazy. I can't believe that this is my life. Like I can't believe that I get to do makeup for a living. So
Yeah.
like I know that there are always going to be tens of thousands of people wanting to be in the position or the job or whatever that I have that day. So I tell myself, like, if there, I could be poor as shit. I could not come from a traditional beauty background or whatever. But the one thing I can control is how hard I work on my technique, how
Mm-hmm.
nice I am in person, and how flexible I am in terms of like going on set and allowing myself to be open to many more opportunities. Because that is like so invaluable as an artist. Like if you show up and you just are telling yourself and the people around you that I want to do this and I have to do this, and like people don't want to hear that. People want someone that's truly collaborative, and
Yeah.
it's something that is learned and you have to practice it, and it's a skill just like anything else.
That you really have, because I remember the first time I worked on I was paid to come and do makeup. I was pulling not from what I learned from like influencers online and like that YouTube era, because that's what I grew up on. It was like the artists, because I was always paying attention to people like Kabuki or like any of those
Love Kabuki.
like Serge Lutens, like those kind of Kevin Aquan, like all these type of people, like legacy makeup artists who they would give you the tips. I would read about like how to conduct yourself, what you need to bring, what's important for the kit, how to kind of act around there. So I wasn't just going in there being like, I have these looks, take it or leave it. And especially that's why I always get so excited to be brought on to photo shoots where I don't actually have to worry about the makeup or whatever. I love to watch. I love to talk and I like to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes. And that's why like I will always look back. That was like a perfect photo shoot we did. Like it was so much fun, like bouncing around ideas from everybody. It was so organic and that just comes with time. It's not something that's
It comes with time and honestly like therapy. Because like
yeah.
you have to like depersonalize it, right? When
Mhm.
you work with celebrities too, like it is hard because it's your art to take things
Mhm.
personally. I get it. I get it. It's who you are. It's your expression. That's what I loved about all the work I did with Doja for those Fashion Week things, because it felt like it was still authentically her expressing herself.
Mhm.
Because she would be like, "Well, what about this? Could we do this?" I'm like, "Girl, of course we could do this. Like, let's do it." You know what I mean? And so I just think that's like such an important aspect of it.
Yeah, because I know there are some times where people ask me to paint them, and my least favorite thing to hear, where I know I'm like, just isn't going to work out. And that's also knowing who you can and cannot work with, just like
Totally.
ideas wise. Because, I mean, if Doja Cat is one of those perfect kind of artists where she was, especially at a really vulnerable time, where she was like, give me that inspiration, just do whatever you want with me. Like, I feel like for a while, she kind of became like, a blank canvas almost, where obviously she knew what her aesthetics were, like she's very involved in it, but I think that's where she kind of opened up the gates for other artists to come in and kind of help assist her into the next her next album promotion. And I know when people want me to do their makeup and they're like, but just don't make me look ugly, that's the tipping point where I know like it's just not gonna we're just not gonna click, because my mind doesn't work all the time within what's beautiful or conventionally beautiful and all that. It's like I have ideas and I want, if our versions of beauty aren't synced, then it's
Right.
just not a perfect collaboration, because I find those Doja Cat looks so beautiful. But I remember like a lot, she was getting clowned a lot on like mainstream media because they've never seen somebody do something so extravagant. Like, I love Gaga, but I don't think Gaga, for the most part, was doing these like full on makeup into the body, into like the fashion. And it was, I mean, if
I
I
think
was
we just
those,
haven't seen that in like a really
yeah.
long time. And like also like it I think it was just cool to show people that like you can be super expressive and like you can do stuff like this. Like it's easy, like it's also just like very liberating, you know, like and it was so cool because she pulled in me in Fashion Week and then even for like one day she had another makeup artist, Sophia Sano. I believe that's how you pronounce the last
Oh, I
name.
worked with her on another shoot. Amazing artist.
In fucking incredible. Love her so much. We'll sing her praises all day long. She's been doing great work on Precious Lee, too,
Mm-hmm.
superstar model. Like so, she came in, she pulled her in, and she did some great work on her. That was so 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 cool. And that was just cool. Like she's just really, I don't know, it just really felt so pure. And about creating. So what I was saying earlier is like when you work with celebrities, you have to be so flexible and you have to
Mm-hmm.
depersonalize your work a little bit, right? Because it's like you can't be so attached to something and have someone say, "Never mind." For whatever reason that person is dealing with, because you don't even know the half of what that person's going through.
Mm-hmm.
They want to change it, and you can't be attached to it, and you can't take it personally. You just have to
Yeah.
be like, "Yeah, totally, 1,000%." You know, you have to see the bigger picture at all times. So, like when I do Melanie Martinez's tour, like I work so closely with her hair artist. William Scott Blair has done her hair for the past 11 years on everything you've ever seen her do. And we work so collaboratively. So on tour, we would just, you know, like it's a new city. We'd be like, okay, what is she wearing? And then we'd be like, okay, what are you thinking? And he'd be like, what are you thinking? And some days he would lead with a really cool concept, and some days I would lead with a really cool concept. Some days the clothing would tend to lend itself, or some days Mel would be like, okay, I really want to do this, or blah blah blah. So it's so beautiful, and that's the magic of doing this is to collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as a queer person and like queer art in general, I think that's like the most precious part of it is like collaborating and working with other queer people. And in this industry, you're working with a lot of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what also makes it such an amazing kind of job to have. Like the people you meet, it
Yeah.
is like not even I never really cared about major celebrities, stuff like that. Like my Kim Kardashian is like Earth Eater or I don't even know. I'm like just some other like I don't care about how
Ethel
big
Kane.
you are. Yeah, like oh my god. Oh my god, like I like you painting her like that would be actually insane.
I might have DM'd her on Instagram.
Please, please, please like that oh my god would be insane. And but honestly the likelihood of that happening is pretty high. I mean, we're
Ethel, if
kind
you're
of
watching
all
this,
in
which
that
you probably aren't because you don't follow any of us, but if
or
you
have social
are,
media,
check your
but we
DMs.
will get it out there. No, we
Yep.
need an Ethel Kane and Laurel collab. Like, I would love to see what could happen with that. Because
And,
also for special effects, I feel
right,
like
and
she
let
could
me
do
tell
some
you
really
something
cool
though.
stuff.
One of the coolest things about working with celebrities and other, you know, higher, more very visible in the public eye clientele is that you get behind the scenes and you see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of trans women. And I'm like, of course her makeup artist is a trans woman. Of course her hair artist is a trans woman. That makes so much sense. I was like, she kind of looks like a doll. Oh, because dolls are the best. Like, so many trans icons in makeup too, like Erica LaPearl, Miyake
Yes.
makeup, like Wendy
Yes.
Miyake. Like, so iconic and brilliant. And yeah, I want to be the trans girl that like does crazy shit. You know what I
Turns
mean?
it
Like I want
out.
to. I love it. I love it, and it's just so cool seeing so many of my community members, like really at the forefront of beauty and innovation, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the biggest things I want is like to I have all of my friends always like kind of I feel like I have the trans touch where all of my favorite like my gay boy friends, they have all ended up transitioning and now I'm like the last one here and I'm like, damn, should I just join them at
Everyone's
this
like,
point? They're like, yeah, come on, girl, like come to the dark
they're like,
side or come to the
take the
light
shot.
side. Yeah. Well, and it's because I feel like there's this whole like I don't even know how to put it of it is a whole different life experience and how you perceive beauty by being like a trans person.
Hmm.
And it has always fascinated me. Like people like Amanda Lepore. Like we just worked with oh my god, why am I blanking? Sophia Lamar on
Love.
the
Yes.
last,
Sophia Lamar.
and
Yes.
it is like, it has always fascinated me so much in how it's. I feel like there's so much more interesting. Like their perspectives on beauty are less about how to please other people, and it's become like this
Right.
either hyper femme or this kind of androgynous look. Where now I feel like we're in an era where all the cis girls want pretty much like the trans girl magic. And I mean, I'm here for it as long as we're crediting and we're actually employing the dolls, because there's a difference between, liking a couple photos and putting them on the mood boards and actually
Right.
putting some money in the pockets. Because
Opening up that wallet and
well, especially with these big budgets, that's what I always kind of get frustrated with. Is I've even just like being around brands and stuff, I will never sacrifice like how I do my makeup, how I present, because I've worked with brands who are kind of more traditional, but I've met with like the founders behind the scenes and they're like, we love what you do, but also I love the idea of translating my kind of everyday and their brand aesthetics. Like I wish we were talking before about Farrah Hamidi. Like their whole aesthetic is like this beautiful, like beach girl, clean skin, but on her runway, she always does a little bit of a twist. So I love kind of transforming myself into that person where they're like, keep the mustache, like kind of still be, I'm still like that very androgynous
love.
creature, but they kind of give me the room to play with their products and figure out how to experiment. And that's what I always love the most, because I I will never be able to just do that standard clean girl stuff. It just, my
Right,
skin
and
like
also like
boils.
standard beauty. Let's not be, let's be real. Standard beauty can be oppressive in some forms. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
telling people that like these are the standards and you must adhere to them, like that's inherently oppressive, right? Like
Yeah.
why do people, in order to present femme, like need to look a certain way? And like it's a lot of standards that have all come from the male gaze, right? Like this has
Yeah.
all been shaped to appease and look pretty for blah 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 the male gaze, but like where's makeup for you? For you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is standard beauty, don't get me wrong. And if you feel empowered by standard beauty, that's great. But I'm just saying there are so many tools in the toolbox. That's what I really want to show. That's why I want my legacy to be, to show people that like you can open up that toolbox and explore so many more options that are past and far beyond any standard or
Mm-hmm.
norm, to express yourself in the most authentic way to you.
And I feel like I never want this to kind of be like, I never want subversive beauty to make you feel like you have to be weird or you have to kind of go outside of your comfort zone. If your comfort zone is your little brown smoky eye and you love it and you feel
Period.
good in it, it's like, do it. But it's
Period.
like
If
also,
yeah,
maybe I can convince you to put like a little bit of the glitter in the inner corner and do like a weird color. Like if that's your little bit of something, like I want to give that to people. I want you to feel so fun. I want you to have fun with makeup, because makeup is literally painting, and that's why I got into it, because I suck at like drawing and all that. Makeup was my drawing. So it's like I want people to have fun, to explore more and figure out like new ways of presenting yourself.
and I think a lot of trans people in general gravitate towards makeup and are so good at it because it's a place of
Yeah.
refuge for us, like it's a place where like we can like safeguard ourselves and like we get to put on our armor in like certain capacities, and like we're able to really like find out who we are through this craft, and it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that we know what the fuck's up, you know what I mean?
And like even just going back to Doja, I just wonder, do you think like having her kind of seal of approval, I feel like that was a major turning point in your career where it was
Of
like,
course.
I feel like the switch clicked and it was like people were ready for Laurel finally.
Yeah. It was
And
funny because before that, I never had people respect me really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
mm-hmm.
would be brought in, like, even a friend who's a designer would have me do makeup for their collection, and they would never ask me what I thought. They would just tell me, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I'm like, yeah, I will do that for you beautifully. And I did it. It's great,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. after Doja Cat, people would come to me and be like, "What do you think? What like show me what you like creatively? What would you want? Like,
Yeah.
what's your input? Like creatively, like." Changed my life because people actually wanted to hear from me. Like they actually valued my perspective, my creativity, my Rolodex of ideas and inspiration, which was validated through her, which I'm very eternally grateful for her, to her for. Yeah, that was just such a crazy period of my life. And now I have other clients that do the same for me. Like I've had Dylan Mulvaney for like 2 years. Even
Yes, love
before she
those.
transitioned as a woman, I was doing her makeup in New York City.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
Yes, she just came out as non-binary at the time, and I did her makeup for a Orquick commercial in Williamsburg, and that's how I met her, and that's we connected, and I think it was like my friend was like, "Hey, there's no budget on the shoot I'm directing, but like this, this friend of mine just came out as non-binary, and it would mean a lot because I was non-binary at the time too,
Hmm.
if you could do their makeup and make them feel so affirmed and safe on set." And I was like, "Oh my god, of course I'll be there. I'm there." I just had to do a paint and go, but like it was just all men, like cis men. So I
Oh,
stayed. I stayed the
yeah.
whole time. I was like, "I'm here for you. I got you." I helped her do some posing on the ground and stuff. And then like her career popped off and she started doing womanhood a month later. I was like, "Oh, I saw one of her TikToks. I was like, oh, so she's transitioning to a woman now. That's so beautiful." And 2 years later, like here we are, you know what I mean? So it's
But I
been
mean, and
crazy. It's
she's evolved much more since then. Like even
yes.
past like gender and transitioning, the respect she's gotten, and I'm so happy she finally was able to kind of move back from being on the internet every day. Because I mean, I don't want to say it was a blessing at all, but like that whole Bud Light situation was like, wait,
They
was it
never
Buzz Light?
they
I don't
never
know.
went to her to try to resolve anything. They
Oh,
like they really threw her to the wolves. And it was so disgusting. I am so proud of her for how she has
gracefully dealt with
persisted
that.
with grace and strength in a way that, a lot of I don't know if I would have been able to take all that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people trying to dox her, vote about ways to kill. Like people were literally like talking so much about wanting to kill her, and they still do, just because she's a visible trans woman, and everyone hates trans people. You know what I mean? But when
Because
you're
also,
not
what does she
visible, it's
do?
scary.
Like, what? I mean, I can understand you don't like her personality for some reason. Like, that's fine.
Hmm.
Move on. I will
Yes,
never understand. There is nobody I follow, nobody I watch that I don't care about. I don't think I've left a hate comment.
and
And
she
that's not
just
even
Lady
some.
Gaga. She just did a post with Lady Gaga, and then Gaga literally had to make another post defending it. I'm like, no, literally, babe. There's this Subway artist who's like super viral. He's like the most followed artist on Instagram in the world. He lives in New York City. He asked me to be in his one of his series. Of course, it goes viral, and all he does is say "ma'am." He just refers to me as "ma'am" once, and that was enough for the entire comment section to be violently transphobic. I mean, thousands of comments, and the
Mm-hmm.
artist never stood up for me publicly or said anything or made a statement, which is like, whatever, you do your own thing. I get it. I appreciate it. He was very kind and respectful during the process, whatever. But I was like, damn, like all this vitriol and hate, like would have been nice if you could have like stood up for me a little bit. But
Because there's
yeah,
also a difference between representation and inviting people in, and then actually having the balls to be like,
mhm.
don't like, I don't to I don't, to back it up after and to be like, no, that was wrong, like what you're commenting and all that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that has always been like, even when I'm on live and stuff and people start saying transphobic things and I'm not even trans, I'm like, that, because that's the one button for me, especially having so many trans sisters. That is one thing I will fight to the grounds for. I'm like, you can call me whatever the fuck you want, but if you're gonna, none of the, leave the trans people out of this.
It's
Like,
cute though,
they
because
got
now
enough.
It's cute though, because now I have a lot of Melanie fans that follow me, and like they'll defend me in the comments, and I'm like, get him.
Oh,
I'm like, go get
I
him.
love
I'm
that
like,
because we
get him,
also,
kids. I'm like,
I never understand how people, I feel like it's so easy for people to leave and are allowed to leave like hate comments on us, but like I've been banned or like been reported so many times for clapping back. And I'm just like, so now I don't say anything. I like text my friends sometimes and I'd be like, can you respond to this for me and like collect them, please? Because
No,
I
you
don't
can
want to
literally
get in
tell me
trouble.
you want me to die because I'm trans, but like the second I call someone serving in the military a government sanctioned murderer, I get banned from Tinder for 6 years. I mean,
Wait, from Tinder you got banned for
yes,
that?
yes.
Please, I
What?
can't like it's and because there's a difference between like giving your opinion like that. I'm like we should allow like even if you have a horrible opinion, at least then it'll open up the conversation to
Right.
correcting that. But like I will never understand allowing the straight up like just like die because also that's what do I do with that? Like what do I
No.
even say back? Like okay.
Oh God, there was a really crazy transphobic, like funny comment I got on one of my recent posts. Because they just say the craziest shit. It was like, oh yeah, oh, it was just like, I forget what it was, but one of the comments was just, "Are you ready for hell?"
Yeah, okay, honestly, sometimes I do read through those and I'm like, sometimes they are real like they are really funny. I
I'm like,
do enjoy
maybe I
them
am. I'm like,
and I'm gonna
okay.
be painted for it. That's I sometimes when they're clever, I'm like, okay, you win that. You win that. I'll let your comment slide. Like you can stay. Like if you're at least
I'm
funny
like,
about
it
it and
drives up
clever.
engagement at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, I remember I did a brand deal a long time ago and actually like thinking about how of actually defending and stuff. I I got like thousands and thousands of hate comments. I mean, I was paid, so I was sitting there like, y'all are hating on my paid gig, but
Right.
whatever. But they never fixed it. Like they never. I remember I turned the comments off myself because I was like sick of getting notifications, and then they turned them back on and like never fixed anything. And I now thinking back, I'm like, what the like. Y'all were just like throwing me out to the wolves for
No,
fun.
literally. I'm
And
like, no, that's the difference. We need you. Like, it was great that Lady Gaga made a post and like really stood up for her. I was like, that's great. Like,
mm-hmm,
take notes, people. Like, that's how you stand behind
defend it
someone.
and
You know?
actually make change because at the end of the day, like we can do so much on our own, but it does take those big icons and people who are actually a part of pop culture to help push forward because thankfully we have our own communities where we can feel safe and all that. And for a while I was very like I never understood like having that community and how important it was, but then moving here I was like I cannot function without all of the friends I've made who understand my life experiences because it is not for the weak. And I'm never one to kind of try and victimize. Like I always try and stand on my own and be like I can get through it, but like people are vicious for absolutely no
For
reason.
no reason. They just see someone else living their most authentic life and they can't take it because they're not. And they can't take it. They can't
Mm-hmm.
process it. And the way for them to process it is to just jump to hate. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't take it because you see a dog, a diva, out there living her truest and fullest life. And the fantasy has become her reality. And you could never. And you will
Mm-hmm.
never. You
Exactly.
could
And it's
actually, you could,
and that
but you
yeah, that's the
haven't,
thing.
and that's why you're mad. So like, keep that to yourself, but don't project your insecurities, your inward hatred, even onto other people who are brave, strong enough. I'm on dating apps, and half the men that message me have a blank profile. And they message me and they don't have their face because they're afraid for people to see that they're maybe trans amorous on a trans amorous dating app. And I always comment, I'm like, I'm a trans woman showing her face to the world and you're hiding. That's pathetic. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. And they're like, oh, okay. But I just like, it's that energy where us as trans people and trans femmes, like, we have to have the bravery to just walk out of the house every day,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there's hatred waiting for us in different, I mean,
Which
everywhere, honestly, everywhere. You never know.
I'm that actually just like jogged my memory. I had like the funniest experience, and I feel like this happens a lot. Like I'll
Mhm.
be kind of painted like on my normal days where it's not so kind of cartoonish and outlandish. Just like at my normal like red lips, smoky eye, I'm going to school. Yesterday on the train, like I'm standing on the platform and the doors closed, and this guy is like making like kissy faces at me through the window, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, you're literally going to be going like you're gone. I'm never
Yeah.
gonna see you again. Hopefully, like I never want to see them again. And I remember there was another time I was waiting to go into a club, and I was waiting on the corner or whatever, just sitting there smoking a cigarette or whatever I was doing. And this guy's like circling me, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I can't. I'm like either I'm gonna get jumped. He comes up and he like tries. He's like flirting with me, and I'm just like, what's going on? And then somebody walks by, and then he walks away, and then comes back when I'm alone again because he was that like couldn't even be seen. Like he was trying to get me to go
Right.
home with him.
No, you got to run away. You got to run away.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope. It's never worth it, babes. It's
And
the DL is never worth it.
the best part was I then go to the deli to get gum. Tell me why? He was the clerk at the deli.
No! It's
Yeah.
always the men at the bodegas. They're always hitting.
They
Yes.
Oh my god, they loved it all. I was like at the my last before I moved, my last bodega guy, like I thought that was probably my husband. Like they love the dolls.
I know. I love being cheeky and flirty with them.
So we kind of went through, I feel like, your career, like your highs and lows, like everywhere you've been. So I kind of want to run through a couple just quick questions so we can learn a tiny bit more. First, your favorite makeup brands. They can be as many as you want.
Okay. Danessa Myricks, Pat
Yep.
McGrath,
Yep.
JD Glow Cosmetics for the press holographic pigments. Really great. Love them. Natasha Denona concealer. Obsessed.
Yep.
Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. I love it for the décolletage. I'm like looking around my room to see like what I have. House Labs. Obsessed with their highlighters.
Really good.
I'm trying to think of like niche things. Oh, Mayron. Obsessed with Mayron water activated paints.
And I feel like because I remember can't say what.
They have this formula. So they have their Paradise paints, which are their standard original formula of water activated. And then they have their Edge paint, which is new. They only have 6 colors. These 6 colors right here. The formula is even better than the Paradise paint. It's still water activated. It's so much thicker. It doesn't crease. You can throw the line down and it's just so rich and delicious. But I don't know. I can't say what I want to say, but yeah, it's a fun.
Okay, she can't, but we're gonna get it soon.
Just get into it, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Get into it.
And then favorite makeup artists?
Oh, God.
Yeah, this can be like contemporary and just like iconic ones.
Okay. The legacy of Pat McGrath is unmatched.
Yeah.
Down, of course. Such an icon, legend. There's a bunch I follow and I love. May Pang, Nezra, Aaron Parsons is great. D Makeup Art is phenomenal. Has been doing Doja a ton. Cov, their Instagram handle is Top Cunt with a K. They are incredible. They live in Brooklyn. Love her so much. She did Tinashe. She also did some Doja. But it's just incredible, beautiful, avant-garde, high fashion makeup artist as well that I really, really deeply admire. And
then do you have any favorite models to work with? Even like in just faces in general.
I mean, Precious Lee is like the moment. Like she is so beautiful. I would die to work with her. I'm trying to think. I've worked with Coco Rocha, who was great, really sweet. That was a really fun time. I'm trying to think of like my favorite people that I've worked with.
It even doesn't have to be you've worked with. Like that you would love to use their face.
Actually, one of my favorite models that I know you just said that, but one of my favorite models I painted her name is Oyinda.
Okay.
Beautiful. I did a body paint on her recently and I want to work with her again and do some more fun stuff. But so beautiful. Oyinda, Oyinda. So beautiful.
Okay, some food for thought. And then your proudest career moments?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I mean, the Doja stuff was like, I'm still so proud of that. Like, it was terrifying, like just jumping into all of that and just not knowing how anyone was gonna take it. It was just purely just for me and her, and like it was just so special because I would just go into the room and me and her we would just create together. We would create a cool look, and then you go out, and then I go back to my room while she's at the show, and I'm like, okay, now everyone else gets to have a say on it. So I'm really proud of myself for just doing that and how that all went down. And I've done I did the Pip and Co Lorena show recently. So
Yeah.
my big goal for 2024 was to do a runway show, and I ended up doing it in February, which was crazy. Did not expect
It
that.
was
Did not expect that
sick.
to happen so
Yeah.
quickly. And I was very proud. It was a very proud moment. It was a moment where that my job was truly to connect the dots with makeup and see the crazy hair, see the crazy styling, the clothes, and to like marry it all together. So I was very proud of that. I had to run a team of 9 people, and it was great. I was very, very proud of that moment.
And then to wrap this up, my favorite question to ask, can you describe your style in 3 words?
Okay. Um, hmm. Um, 3 words. Okay. God, it
Or
seems
maybe
easy.
3 ideas. It can
Okay.
also,
Deeply expressive.
yeah.
Um, Emotional.
Yes.
I mean, I could use the word precise. I could use the word, but I feel like vibrant, right?
Yeah.
Like vibrant. Like
I feel like even past colors, like just in general, the ideas.
and what I love more than anything else, and my goal, I want people to look at my makeup art and feel an emotion as soon as they look at it. Like I want you to like stop in your tracks and be like, "Whoa! Like what is this?" You know, like, so whatever that is in a word, that.
Okay, and that wraps up this episode, Laurel. Thank you so much for being here, and I cannot wait to see, especially the photo shoot tomorrow. I'm very excited to see what happens with that, all the ideas, and I am honestly just so grateful to have you. You were one of my biggest, before we even met, you were one of my biggest makeup icons, and to have you on my podcast and just to be able to call you a friend, it's been such a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for showing up in this beautiful mug as well. And thank you for having me. It's been so great getting to know you, and I can't wait for our next little adventure.
And we will see you soon. And that concludes this episode of Subversive Beauty. Bye.